what's up guys?
This is Seymour Films.
My name's Harry Thomas.
And my name's Tommy Monkhouse. Let's get this review started. So today we're going to be reviewing Marvel's Ant-Man, directed by Peyton Reed.
So the sci-fi action film was released here in the UK on the 17th of July.
So the film consists of Paul Rudd as Scott Lang, aka Ant-Man.
Michael Douglas as Dr. Hank Pym.
Evangeline Lilly as Hope Van Dyne.
Corey Stoll as Darren Cross, aka Yellow Jacket.
Bobby Cannavale as Paxton.
And finally, Michael Pena as Luis.
So the film opens up with a short flashback based around the S.H.I.E.L.D. headquarters, and this is due to the fact that S.H.I.E.L.D. is attempting to recreate the Pym particles made by Hank Pym. This being the case, Michael Douglas's character of Hank Pym walks into S.H.I.E.L.D. and ends up confronting Peggy Carter by Hayley Atwell. We also have Howard Stark by John Slattery. And finally, we also have Agent Carson. Agent Carson is known as the villain of this film, but we'll get more to that later. Basically, he confronts them about trying to recreate it. This being said, they end up having to walk away from the project, but not wanting to let it go, they take away Pym Tech from Hank Pym, and it ends up later on in the film becoming Cross Tech.
So after the opening of the film, we see Paul Rudd as Scott Lang leaving prison. He's then picked up by Luis, and he's basically trying to get his life back on track, trying to get that relationship back with his daughter since he's been in prison for like 3 years.
This doesn't go to plan for the fact of his family end up interfering, or what's meant to be his family, so his ex-wife, the new husband and his daughter, plus the fact he loses his recent job. This being the case, he ends up having to do the one thing he didn't want to have to do. He had to pull off a heist, hoping that it would give him the money to pay child support.
So after he commits the heist, he then finds the Ant-Man suit.
This being the case, the film takes the twist for what we end up getting. So this is where we're going to describe what we thought about the film.
Let's get to it!
So, what was your opinion?
I mean, I really liked the film. I think it was like very like comedic.
Comedic. So apparently, guys, this film was comedic.
Hashtag comedic.
Hashtag comedic. Make sure you put that for the review. Yeah, go for it, guys. Comedic. Comedic.
I really find it like really funny. I like how he's like really small in the film, and it's got a lot of comedy in it. I genuinely think that it's a really like funny family film.
You're saying about him being small in the film. You do know that the film's called Ant-Man.
Yeah, of course, yeah, but like you know, coming from different Marvel films, it's just like it is different.
If you're wondering why I went like that, guys, I'm giving Cypher a look as if to say, this motherfucker.
That Cypher, he's new on the team, but anyways.
Hello.
Yeah. No, I completely agree, but I also like the fact there's so many genres. Like,
yeah, there's like it's like a very like
what was it?
Like tower heist.
We got
like,
to 7 genres in the end.
Yeah, it's like a heist film, like.
You've got a heist film.
It's like kind of like rom-com, like.
Yeah.
Sort of.
You've got the superhero factor in general, because well, it's a Marvel film.
Yeah.
Like you said, rom-com, so it's both romance, comedy, action, adventure. There was so much to this film. I could easily say that 95% of film goers could watch this film and find something to enjoy.
Yeah, because before I went to watch the film, I was like, well, I'm a bit like optimistic about like, oh, it's just gonna be. This looks a bit.
Yeah.
You know, it's just different.
I was also definitely a bit skeptical because it's a film about a superhero called Ant-Man, but definitely a great film. And also about the genres, it was great. It was a base heist film with elements of sci-fi.
Yeah.
Which was great.
No, I completely agree. Being a heist film, I'm not sure if it was just me, but I sort of felt like it was a cross between a superhero film and films like The Italian Job, things like that. It had the comedic aspect, the action, and the whole heist thing going throughout the film. So you ended up feeling like, oh, I'm really getting into this. I want to see what happens.
Yeah, I mean, I was really like interested with the chemistry of like
Evangeline Lilly.
Who's going to be the Wasp in the next I'm guessing the next film. So like she has like this.
Are you trying to say her and Scott Lang hit it off?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. Like I mean, like they were kissing and stuff. Like. And they get caught by Hank Pym.
I will admit, I love the line that Hank says, where he says, Scott, you're full of shit.
Yeah.
And he's just like, I know.
Yeah, I mean, there's a bit of swearing, but not too overboard.
Yeah.
Like, obviously, kids are gonna go see this movie. It's a Marvel film for one, and two, it's kind of an interesting character. Like, him turning small, kids will be like, oh wow, this is kind of interesting. It's, you know, it's got some funny bits in the trailer. So.
Well, what was it? You had the fact of, for those of you who haven't seen the trailer, and what we're going to do is use a clip here now. Boosh!
My days of breaking into places and stealing stuff are over. What do you want me to do?
I want you to break into a place and steal some stuff.
Makes sense.
You see here where Hank Pym's character says, I want you to go into a place and steal some stuff. But in the film, they've actually got the uncensored version where he goes, I want you to break into a place and steal some shit. So obviously they've censored in the trailer, but it wasn't overdone in the film.
It wasn't overdone, you know, I think Marvel know that obviously more and more kids are going to watch this film.
Well, I felt like there was only maybe 3 or 4 times any swear word was used. Other than that, I don't think there was that much. It was a family film. The only thing that really made it seem more of an adult film was the near ending scene with Darren Cross's character. I'll admit that scene was quite dark. The whole him shrinking and that scream that he lets out in the bug zapper. You just like
see like
you end up sort of cringing, but at the same time it was just like, man, this is.
Yeah, I mean the profanity wasn't really like
overboard.
So I mean that's a good thing for Marvel films. So. Yeah, I just really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
I think it's one of the best Marvel films in a while.
Oh yeah, I definitely like the fact of, I think they've ended Phase 2 on a high.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, the fact of now that they've got essentially the main hero set up, I cannot wait for Civil War.
Yeah, I can't wait, man. I'm reading it right now because I'm kind of like.
Oh yeah. I will admit, reading that comic, I was like, if the film is anything like this, then Marvel can't go wrong.
It's gonna be so like interesting.
Plus, you've got the fact of Civil War's going to be introducing 2 new characters. You're going to have the new Spider-Man, and you're going to have Black Panther. So the fact of Ant-Man has done so much for this new film, I don't think we got much to worry about. So whether you're a Marvel fan or not, it's still something you can go watch and it'll be a right laugh.
I mean, I'm not too sure if they were to put in like another Ant-Man 2 before Civil War. Like, it's more like it's going to be after.
Ant-Man 2, they've already announced the film lineup for the next few years, which we'll put on the screen for you guys to see. Those films are going to go really well. What they've planned out, and then as soon as Infinity Wars happened, there's quite a chance that you're going to see Ant-Man 2, a Spider-Man sequel, now that they've announced that he will get his own solo film. So basically, they're lining it up pretty well.
Let's get straight back.
Back to the review. Okay.
So what did you think of it?
See, for me, again, I really enjoyed it. I felt like, with me knowing a lot more about the history of these characters, I felt like they did a lot to sort of stick to the story.
Yeah.
I would have liked if it had been able to use the whole film as Hank Pym for Ant-Man. I would have loved that, for the fact of it would have stuck to the
first
origin.
Ant-Man. Yeah, he stuck to the first origin with like the Towers of Astonish, issue 27 I think it was. Yeah,
and I would have loved if that being the case, we would have had more of Janet Van Dyne as the Wasp. But the fact of you don't really see her, and then at the end you see that Hope is.
I mean, you see her like how she like died.
How she died.
The quantum.
Quantum realm.
Yeah.
Yeah. No. I know that, but what I'm saying is, it would have been cool to see if they'd done the whole Hank Pym story.
Yeah.
It would have been cool to have Janet as the Wasp, and that would have been really good, because for those of you who are Marvel fans, you know that the first Avenger, or one of the first, was Janet Van Dyne, aka the Wasp, which gave us also Ant-Man. So that being the case, it would have been the perfect lead into Civil War, since they have sort of stuck with the story, but it's a tiny bit different. So that being the case, that's the reason I would have liked to see it. But that said, I don't think it was all that bad. I didn't come out finding any real complaints. I remember going to see it with you, and we really enjoyed it. Now that we've done essentially what we thought. Let's try and get into the negatives, sort of give our opinion on what we feel they could have done better. So
yeah, so I thought like Evangeline Lilly, she like they didn't show too much of her. Like she was kind of a clever character. She was like very smart and she was like willing to be in the Ant-Man costume.
yeah.
She was trying to get her dad to give it to her, but like obviously Hank Pym gave it to Scott Lang. And then, but now like at the end of the film, you see the Wasp costume at the end.
Yeah.
Which I believe is it at the credits?
First set of credits, yeah.
First set of credits, yeah. So you see it at the first set of credits, and the costume is really,
it
really
looks
cool.
brilliant.
Yeah.
And if anything, it's quite comic accurate.
Yeah.
Like they said, it was still in development, and they had to finish it off. So I'm hoping they go with the whole yellow and black colour theme. But even if they change it,
so Evangeline Lilly, she's hot.
Oh yeah, she was gorgeous.
She was hot, yeah.
They couldn't have gone wrong with that bit of casting there. For the fact of, I feel like the chemistry, they balanced it really well. Scott Lang and Hope, they had that sort of I don't like you, but I could like you sort of thing between them. But it was the whole Hope was jealous. She wanted to do this job.
She wanted to be Ant-Man basically, and then like Scott Lang, he showed how good he could be as Ant-Man, and she just basically got jealous, and that jealousy slowly turned into like her being like not flirty but attracted to him basically.
And I think that it also helped the whole relationship between her and her dad, Hank Pym.
Yeah.
For the fact of that being the case, it allowed for Hank to realise, oh, she can do this job, but now that Scott is Ant-Man, I can pass on the mantle of the Wasp, and they can do that job together. So that being the case, it's definitely a good lead-in for the MCU.
Yeah.
So basically, I feel like the relationships, that was a good part, but at the same time, like you said, it was also a bad part for the fact of they could have developed a little bit more on some of those relationships. Evangeline Lilly wasn't used enough. She could have been used as the Wasp, even if it was just for a split 2 seconds. That being said, I think the negative for me, I feel like in a way they did kind of take away from the whole story of Hank Pym. Like, okay, they had that several flashbacks of him as Ant-Man and why everything happened like it did, but I feel like there could have just been that little bit more about him as Ant-Man, even if it had been a scene of when they did that intro sequence in S.H.I.E.L.D. when they tried to stop him. It could be that he ends up using the suit and escaping so they couldn't stop him. So I thought that would have been interesting, but that being said, overall I can't really complain. I don't really have anything bad to say.
I mean, one thing I noticed, like Darren Cross, isn't it?
Yeah.
Fucking ace. I feel like they showed more of him, like he's like sort of powers and abilities more than Ant-Man. I feel like Ant-Man should have showed a bit more. Like you obviously see him like getting trained, but it'll be interesting to see like him like getting more abilities and.
So Hank Pym was mentor to Darren Cross. This being the case, you see the fact of Darren Cross gets jealous for the fact he knows there's a secret that Hank Pym's keeping, but he doesn't want to go into it. Years later, he finally realises what that secret is and finds a way to get around it. So I can see where you're coming from. The whole Darren Cross, you got to see more of his abilities.
Yeah.
So if you want to carry on from
I mean, like you see a bit more than of his abilities, which is good. But like I would have wanted to see a bit more of Ant-Man because like you see the training and everything, but like
the only real action scene before the whole Yellow Jacket thing is the fight between him and Falcon.
Yeah.
And don't get me wrong, I thought that was brilliant.
Yeah, I thought. I think that was funny as well.
Yeah.
You know? He's like, he just shows up the Avengers. He's like, oh my god, what have I done? And then like, he ends up there and he's suddenly
Yeah,
fighting
yeah.
Falcon. So
And what I find funny is he's won against Falcon, and then Falcon goes, Cap never hears about this, and you just can't help but laugh. But this is another negative that I've realised. In the trailer, when Scott says, I'm Ant-Man, it's Darren Cross looking at him as the Yellow Jacket, but in the film, he says it to Sam Wilson, the Falcon.
Did you think you could stop the future? You're just a thief! No, I'm Ant-Man. I know, it wasn't my idea.
And you're like, something not right here.
yeah,
So with Edgar Wright's confrontation between the executives at Marvel, we see that we didn't actually get the film that we were expecting, because the trailer was released back when Edgar Wright was still in charge. But now that we've seen the new film, we see many different changes. So
yeah, because of that transition, it's just like you know, you don't really tell the difference, obviously, but it's kind of a shame. Like you would have to like leave during the movie, and I think like Marvel Studios are like kind of worried, like, oh crap, like
what are we gonna do now?
what are we gonna do now? Yeah.
No, I completely agree, and the fact of, I think what was awkward was when you read the original Edgar Wright script, you end up thinking, okay, so why has this been changed, and why has the genre been made, if anything, a bit more comedic? Because when I was reading through sort of bits of the script that were leaked online, I sort of felt like he sort of stuck with the seriousness a bit more, which I liked. Don't get me wrong, I'm not saying Peyton Reed's done a bad job. He's done a really good job on this film, but it does make you think, why did he go more for the comedic route than the serious route? But so what do you think on that aspect?
You know, again, as I said before, you don't see a difference. It's just I literally, like, I didn't even know before I watched the movie that they switched directors, and so I just, again, I couldn't tell a difference. So that's all I can really say.
Yeah. I think, honestly, unless you're a really, really die-hard Marvel fan and you're following everything that's happening leading up to a film's release, you're not going to notice a majority of the differences. Like, the only one which Fantastic Four made this mistake and Ant-Man made it. They show bits in the trailer which don't actually happen. And I understand some things get cut out on the cutting room floor, fair enough. But there's some bits, it makes you think, why make it the roof scene between Ant-Man and Falcon? It's meant to be Ant-Man and Yellow Jacket, ends up being Ant-Man and Falcon.
Yeah.
So it makes you think, why?
It just kind of draws back the whole story, you know, like you're seeing the film, like obviously a Marvel film, there's going to be a superhero and then there's a villain, the fight or whatever, fair enough, but like now you're seeing more action from Ant-Man with Falcon, and Falcon's pretty much on the same side as Ant-Man, you know. Ant-Man's like, they just met obviously, so he's like a bit obviously skeptical about him. You see more. You see more. I think you see a bit more action. It's a bit more like, it's got like a load of comedy in it. I mean, I'm not saying like I enjoyed that more than Yellow Jacket. Yellow Jacket was awesome.
Oh yeah, it was brilliant.
I liked how like he's like all his abilities, like he had it on he had this massive effect on Ant-Man, his life. I mean, like how he found out his daughter and his family, and like not sort of kidnapped his daughter, but like just put her as like hostage. Sort of. I really enjoyed that, because I'm obviously in the beginning of the movie, not the beginning of the movie, but like after the opening, you see like, and during the film, you see Scott Lang and his daughter like connecting with each other, you know, and they really love each other.
Oh yeah, and what I honestly like is the fact of, when it comes to Scott Lang and his daughter, I like the fact that they made the change from the comic book, the fact of the reason Scott Lang becomes Ant-Man in the original comics is the fact his daughter's dying of a rare heart disease, which ends up being the same heart disease that's killing Darren Cross.
Darren Cross, yeah.
But they end up taking away from that in the film. So
yeah, you don't see that at all at the film.
No,
like, yeah.
there is no aspect of illness, so it makes you think, oh, when you hear that this isn't going to be the case, you end up wondering, oh, what are they going to do to change it up? And I feel like they still did it well, the whole...
Yeah, they still did it well. Like, I mean, it was a really good story, but like, I think it would have been interesting if they could have had that like heart disease like put into the story. Like, so you got like down sort of like side effects to what he's doing.
Yeah.
He's trying to like change it up, the suit and everything, and all these social experiments.
You could definitely see in his character though how it took a toll on like his mental health.
Yeah.
He was a bit mentally unstable, I'd say.
Oh yeah, because they said that to him in that scene just before he puts on the yellow jacket outfit, saying that the suit's making you mentally unstable. You have to.
And he also killed that guy who just disagreed with him.
Yeah.
Like, so you can just tell that it does take a toll on him. So.
And even Hank Pym says that halfway through the film, when he's asked, why don't you just get in the suit and do the job? And he says, if I could, I would, but after years of wearing the suit, it's taken its toll on me. I can't do it anymore. So, honestly, I feel like the whole comic book adaptation and the whole changes between Edgar Wright and Peyton Reed, they didn't do too bad.
Not too bad, yeah.
I think the thing that's going to be interesting, though, is you're going to have Hope in the new film as Wasp. But in the comic book, she was actually a villain. Basically, she gets jealous for the fact of she wasn't given the Ant-Man suit, and the successor ended up becoming Scott Lang's daughter, who ended up taking on her own superhero identity. And in the end, you're kind of like, okay, so she's a villain in the comic book, but you're going to turn her into Wasp, which I don't think is a bad thing, because it's good to have Ant-Man and Wasp together. I did like some of those changes as well, because they made it sort of more like, oh, you can feel that build up for the MCU, but it's not forced on you, which is what I was really, really worried about, it being sort of like, oh, we're going to do this and just go, bam, there, you have to deal with it. They didn't do that. They made it, right, we'll build it up and then make it gradual.
Into like the costume and everything, so I think like Ant-Man's costume, I liked it.
Oh yeah, it was definitely good.
Yeah.
I like the fact that it wasn't 100% like the comic, like the whole fact of in the comic the mouth is cut out and it's just a
like
visor.
Sort of like space suit.
Yeah.
It had like it was just kind of plain like logo and.
Yeah, but I like this version, but I also like that they essentially make a joke about it right at the beginning when he first finds the suit. And it's like, it's a motorbike suit.
Yeah, that's what I thought, yeah.
That's all it looked like.
It looked like, yeah. It looked cool though.
Oh yeah, definitely.
I like the helmet and everything.
It was practical, it didn't take away from what the character was about.
Yeah.
And it still made that sort of emphasis as a character.
What I would have liked though, because like, you don't really see it much, but like, maybe have a logo.
Yeah.
I don't know, I mean, it looks good overall.
Yeah, definitely. For a suit that, I'm sorry, there's been mainly two versions for in the comic books. I like that they didn't stick with those two versions. They made it a lot more practical. I like the fact that with the comic book versions, you had the no visor. But in this, I like the fact that they've used that bit of the metallic aspect, which it shows here, which makes it more reasonable to think he's communicating with the ants.
Yeah.
I like that factor. I would like if they change it up in the new film, which they probably will. It's gonna happen for the fact of...
Yeah, because it's an old suit that like Pym used, and he's probably gonna like, you know, pimp it up a bit.
It'll either be him or...
get that.
If...
Yeah.
Yeah, so no, I completely agree. They've made it practical, it will get an update, it's obvious. I think the other suit we have to talk about has to be the yellow jacket.
Yeah, I like the suit. I think it's badass.
Oh yeah, it was definitely good.
It was definitely badass.
Only thing that I will say, it wasn't practical for being on set. You knew that it had to be CGI for how big that suit would have been, how heavy, how difficult it would have been to move the whole thing. CGI was the only option.
Yeah, like it had like those lasers on it, and you had like, it was basically a war machine compared to Ant-Man. He had like,
if anything, that's what it sort of seemed like, because the original Yellow Jacket in the comic books is based on the Hornet, the insect. So basically, it was meant to be the contrast to Ant-Man and Wasp. Hornet, Yellow Jacket made sense. This seemed a bit more intense, so I would have liked to have seen what they could have done to make it a bit more practical.
yeah.
But overall, again, it worked for what the film was. Okay, so now we're going to discuss our rating, what we give it out of 10, and sort of why. Okay, so what do you think?
I would give it an 8 because, like, reason being is because there wasn't much action.
Yeah.
You know, he's like getting trained, and like the tower heist was like, the heist was like, it was good and stuff.
Yeah.
But I wanted to see a bit more action with like his abilities and stuff.
Yeah.
But overall it was really good. Funny. It was funny. There was like a bit of romance going on between
Paul Rudd and Evangeline Lilly's characters. Yeah.
And I just really enjoyed it. I think it's a good family film, and I'll definitely go see it again.
So overall, you're going 8 out of 10.
Yeah, 8 out of 10. Yeah.
Okay. Honestly, I think I'll go for the same. 8 out of 10, 8.5 out of 10. Just for the fact of, like you said, there was some improvements that could have been done, like the practicality of the costumes and some of the aspects that it was only slight tweaks that needed to be done.
Yeah.
But overall, there wasn't that much wrong with it. Like, it wasn't on par with the first Avengers film and Guardians of the Galaxy. Definitely beat Age of Ultron.
Yeah.
So, yeah, 8 to an 8.5. So overall, we'll call it, between us, 8 out of 10. So that's not too bad for a Marvel film. For the fact of
it's different, and you know, before I went to see the film, I was a bit skeptical about it, and now since I've watched it, I'm like, wow, it's freaking amazing. And yeah, again, as I said,
well, it just feels like Marvel are upping their game each film. Like, okay, they sort of slipped a tiny bit on Age of Ultron, but you can see why they slipped, for the fact of everything they're trying to set up. There's so much trying to be set up, you
can't handle everything.
And now we're about to do our shout out segment. So if you don't know what the shout out segment is though, last video we announced every video we're going to do a shout out segment. Each pick one YouTuber. Starting next time, Sife's even going to pick one, so you guys can keep up with what we're watching, what we're doing with our lives, and so
okay, so the first YouTuber, I've been following him for 8 years now, since 2006 on YouTube. His name is David DeFranco, not Philip DeFranco, but David DeFranco. He's a tech YouTuber like me, and he's just absolutely, he's amazing. Like, he recently just like got up to 120,000 subscribers.
Wow. And
like in that period, like you would think like he would get more, but he's sort of like it's more about the community he's built out of, and he's built a really good community, and out of that community he's on like he's on the websites like Patreon, where since then he got a $12,000 Mac Pro.
Wow.
Where people donated to get him that, and a few monitors, like 4K monitors.
That is brilliant.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
He's such an awesome guy. I look up to him. Like, he's the person that pretty much got me into doing YouTube in the first place. So definitely a shout out to him. Go check him out. Link in the description below.
Yeah. And make sure you keep enjoying what we're doing. So thank you guys.
So that's everything from this video.
If you enjoyed the video, make sure to go down, comment below, give us your opinion.
Like this video if you enjoyed it.
And make sure you subscribe and share for more.
Anyways guys, my name is Harry Thomas.
And my name's Tommy Monkhouse. This has been See More Films, and we're out.
New reboot from Fox's Fantastic Four was just released on Tuesday last week here in the UK.